The Other Voices: How Tobacco Retailers Can Help End Community Poverty. Many would expect the main consequence of an effective anti-smoking policy to be a reduction in the purchase of cigarettes, indicating that some people have quit smoking. A study by Gladys Chavez gathered opinions from the tobacco retailers of the low-income Tenderloin neighborhood in California regarding the state's recent $2 tobacco tax increase. As anticipated, over 80% of retailers reported a decline in cigarette sales, with a median reported decline of 20 to 25%. However, the retailers doubt the effectiveness of the increase, given what they have seen and heard firsthand. One even said, "Customers are buying more actually. I'm shocked at how many people are buying at the new retail price. They are buying 3 packs. They may be thinking the price will go up." While it would be easy to label the tax increase as effective going by surface level statistics, the retailers provide keen insights into their community that suggest the opposite is true. Chavez's research indicates that tobacco retailers play a pivotal role in understanding poverty and inequality because they evaluate the effectiveness of anti-smoking policies through the lenses of health and social life in addition to economics. Retailers formulate opinions on existing policies that go beyond pure economic analysis while suggesting more practically effective alternatives and considering the dignity and autonomy of those policy effects. Part of what makes the input of the retailers so valuable is their constant exposure to customers, resulting in observations of policy effectiveness more profound than general data. Their thoughtful conclusions account for community health and well-being, not just economics. For example, retailers Chavez interviewed found the tobacco tax regressive not because it hurts sales, but because it encourages poor health and economic practices from customers. They emphasized that customers would turn to other, more dangerous forms of obtaining tobacco in response to high prices instead of quitting. Chavez writes, "Other retailers said that customers bought cigarettes illegally, quote, on the street, switched to a cheaper store-bought brand, or to cigars, purchased less expensive roll-your-own tobacco, purchased 1 pack every 2 days rather than daily, tried to quit or quit because they were forced to." Primarily, retailers expressed concern that the new tax increase hurts the health of the community by encouraging the purchase of lower quality products, a concern borne out by data. A study by Daniel Bennett and Wesley Yin found that customers bought drugs at similar frequencies regardless of perceived quality. Such a conclusion suggests that simply raising the overall prices of tobacco products actually creates unintended health risks by propagating ineffective or dangerous drugs. Additionally, retailers specifically mentioned the emergence of an illegal drug market. Breaking laws in order to fuel an addiction may foster a disrespect for government that leaves them less likely to cooperate with future government programming. Caesar, from Burgoy's study on inner-city poverty and illegal drug markets, felt so estranged from government policy that he said outright, quote, "We don't want to be part of society." Retailers articulate that an anti-smoking policy that instead fosters government mistrust will hamper future anti-smoking efforts. While some previous customers did quit smoking, the medical and social drawbacks of low-quality and illegal tobacco markets outweigh any small progress towards community smoking cessation. The first-hand observation of retailers enable us to look past surface-level numbers and re-examine anti-smoking policies by referencing existing research. The voice of the retailer is valuable to the study of poverty because it provides a personal take on policy that pure economic data lacks. Beyond evaluating existing policies, retailers have their own ideas for alternative policies that would improve community health, economics, and social life. Many interviewees in Chavez's study expressed a desire to shift to a grocery business model, in which they would largely replace their tobacco income by selling fresh produce to customers. These retailers, Chavez writes, mentioned strategies for selling healthier items and suggested that selling more groceries or selling healthier groceries could help them stay afloat, with the added benefit of the food being good for customers. Their novel strategy represents a more practically effective alternative to the tobacco tax increase because it would help them and their community in myriad ways. For one, Diane Whitmore Schanzenbach, in a report on national food insecurity, reports that even though 64% of observed food insecure low-income households received the National School Lunch Program, about half remained food insecure. Providing greater access to fresh food could bolster food security efforts for families who already participate in NSLP and similar programs. Also, reducing the need for transportation to and from fresh food sources may benefit child health beyond nutrition. Specifically, limiting carbon monoxide emissions in neighborhood environments appears to have a dramatic effect on newborn health. Janet Curry's study on carbon monoxide emissions in low-income neighborhoods suggests that moving from an area with high levels of CO to one with low levels of CO would have an effect larger than getting a woman who was smoking 10 cigarettes a day during pregnancy to quit. Interestingly, making fresh food more available may promote infant health in a similar way to smoking cessation. Based on their first-hand experiences, these tobacco retailers propose a multifaceted solution to smoking in their community that considers far more than economic data. The retailer perspective matters for understanding poverty because they can see their customer relations enable them to see upsides to alternative policies not immediately obvious in economic studies. Aside from the purpose of any policy itself, tobacco retailers also serve as powerful liaisons for helping anti-smoking policymakers respect the dignity and autonomy of every person. Since they hear directly what customers believe are the most effective strategies for reducing community smoking, policymakers could use that input to design a policy based around the beliefs of those it affects. Chavez outlines this concern directly in her study, writing, "Retailers' reports of customer questions about the uses of cigarette tax revenue and desire for smoking cessation assistance rather than higher taxes highlight the potential risk of smokers feeling uninformed about or alienated from policy decisions that affect them, and consequently less likely to support tobacco control measures." This feeling of dehumanization related to government decisions is different from the disrespect for government mentioned previously. Rather, when lawmaking bodies ignore the desires of citizens, those citizens may feel like the government disrespects them and feel discouraged from influencing government decisions as opposed to rebellious. If policymakers listen to people like tobacco retailers, who can act as speakers for smoking communities, they are more likely to respect the dignity and autonomy of citizens, more likely to implement policies that work, and more likely to secure future participation. Furthermore, the ideas of dignity and autonomy extend towards Martha Nussbaum's theory of basic human capabilities. Nussbaum explains that one universal human capability, or a capability all people are entitled to, should be, quote, political control over one's environment. In that sense, when policymakers ignore the recommendations of those their policies affect, one could argue they mark those people as undeserving of basic human rights. Retailers, then, could also ensure reverence by authority for the power of citizens by acting as the voice of their concerns. In total, retailers can function not only as community judges of effective anti-smoking policy, but also as ethical guides to policy creation. They can contribute to the understanding of poverty and inequality by translating the thoughts and feelings of the impoverished into political ideas that can be acted upon. Some would argue that despite the potential of tobacco retailers as supporters of impoverished smoking communities, they cannot fulfill that potential to the optimal degree because they themselves are community members who suffer many of the same hardships. They may act in a way contrary to maximal community benefit. For example, they may choose to keep selling tobacco over produce in order to make the income necessary to survive. However, that same line of reasoning actually augments their potential as helpful community figures because they would be more inclined to help end hardships that also impact them. The retailer who sells produce over tobacco also has access to that produce and reaps its benefits. Tobacco retailers who act in the best interests of their communities often act in their own best interests as well. Rather than simply being sellers attempting to help themselves, retailers can serve as important figures for reducing the presence of smoking in their communities and improving them on multiple fronts. They provide inside information on the effectiveness of current government policy and suggest alternatives that take multiple aspects of community well-being into account. Additionally, as reservoirs of community opinion, they can make their voices heard to ensure the dignity and autonomy of community members is respected during policy creation. All in all, tobacco retailers bolster the current understanding of poverty and inequality by connecting the insights of themselves and the poor with the people with the power to change their circumstances. That's it.